What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be going over how to structure your sales calls so you can have maximum impact every single time you hop on the phone. I'm really excited for this one because closing deals is just infinitely easier when you have the right structure. There's going to be less variance. You should feel confident going into every single call. So stick with me to see what that looks like. If you're new here, my name is Dan Crowley. I'm one of the co-founders at Client Ascension and ListKit. We're pulling over $1 million per month. I've taken thousands of sales calls myself, built elite sales teams that are closing over 40% with cold traffic in the mix right now, and help clients go from unpredictable sales processes to closing high ticket deals very consistently with the exact framework that I'm about to show you. So like I said, in this video, we're going to be going over how to structure your calls, like what each part of the call should look like, in what order, so that you can lead the conversation, build trust, because honestly, your sales process is the first impression that this person is getting of your company most of the time. And I can't tell you how many times where I'm not selling sales consulting, but people are like, wow, you have a really good sales process. So I figure you're just gonna be competent in whatever else you're doing. And then lastly, like I said, the big thing here that this is going to lead to is just more consistency in your process. So let's jump into it. All starts with the introduction phase. And the introduction phase isn't going to make or break the sale usually, but it is a nice help to build some momentum early in the call and get off to the right foot. We've all had those conversations where it just starts off super awkward. Main way to avoid that is just don't overthink it. Don't be weird. Set the expectation for a productive conversation. Jump into it. So when it comes to opening and the rapport here, how's the weather, blah, 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 all that bullshit, don't worry about it. Just be human. It's just conversation. See if we can help this person. It should look and feel like that. Don't try to become best friends with this person. Don't try to suck up with them. People don't want to work with somebody that's inferior to them. This isn't a charity game. Just shoot shit for under a minute, or don't. If you're not a person that's capable of that, be respectful of their time and be like, cool, man, can we jump into things? Awesome. Now, after you do that, you're going to set the agenda. And this is where you start leading. If you don't set the expectations early, what's going to happen is they're going to steer the call. They're going to ask random questions. They're going to wander. When they wander, you lose frame. You don't want that. So just use an agenda that feels like this. Hey, just so you know what to expect, this call is going to be a casual conversation to understand your current situation, what's working, what's not, what you're looking to accomplish. If it seems like we can help out, cool. I'll walk you through what working together would look like, so you decide if you want to get started today. If not, it's completely fine too. We can shake hands, part ways as friends. Either way, just looking to point you in the right direction. Sound good? Nobody's going to say no there. But basically, you just want to establish three things. Obviously, you can tailor a little bit more to your offer, but it's not going to be a high pressure call, which nobody likes. You're here to help. Awesome. If all goes well and they think this is a solution that can get them to their goals, we'll get started here today. They now know what's going to happen, and humans like certainty, right? So it's just going to build trust, and it's also going to give you permission to get into the part where you're asking them a bunch of questions. Now, I also like to check on time just to make sure that somebody's not rushing off the call at the half hour or the hour whenever the meeting is scheduled to end. So all I do is just say, hey, call shouldn't take too long, by the way, but just make sure we have time to go over everything. Do you have a hard stop at 5 o'clock? If it's like a 4:30 to 5 o'clock, because if you know closes typically take an hour for your offer, but they have a hard stop at 30 minutes, you now know that you have a different objective, right? Like you don't want to try to speed run everything and just force the close super quickly on that first call, because you're usually just going to have a pretty poorly run call. And even if you do get the follow-up, it's usually not going to go that well. So in this case, I want to do a thorough discovery. I want to have a high level pitch and go over the parts of the offer that are most important to them based on what I gathered in discovery, then set a follow-up call same day, if possible, if not next day, but as soon as possible, where we can go over the pricing and the specific package that's going to make the most sense for them specifically. Now, the reason why this matters is because, like I said, if you have a process where you typically run over on time and you have call slots for 30 minutes, because 30 minutes is less intimidating to a prospect, and they don't have a hard stop at the 30-minute mark, you basically have an hour almost every single time, right? You'll notice that people don't really book on like the 10 or 15 minutes. There's this whole show entourage where the guy's like, oh, I landed a 250 meeting. And he's like, 250 meeting? Like, that's a jerk off meeting. What is he going to do? Clear his throat till 3? That's kind of actually how it works, right? So if you're good to go, good for time management. Anyways, really quick one here. If you're an agency owner doing less than 30K a month and you want to scale your business, listen up. Client Ascension's AI assisted agency program has helped tons of B2B business owners doing founder-led sales scale with this exact call structure I'm talking about here today. Help clients like Eamon scale from 2K a month to 132K a month with this exact structure. Click the link below to learn more about AI assisted agency. Okay, back to structuring your sales call in the right way. So now we're in discovery. And this is one of the most important and usually the most overlooked part of the call. It's usually around 15 minutes of a 30-minute call. And this is where you qualify them. Like, do they actually have a problem that you can solve? Get the information that you need to close them. Hey, what's working? What hasn't? What are they looking into? How's this decision going to be made? And then create urgency, which is super, super important. A lot of people just don't get that urgency and the opportunity cost before leaving discovery. And they're wondering why this person does not want to close today on the call, right? So ask questions like how long they've been struggling to figure this out. Why now all of a sudden? Are they ready for a change? Super, super important. Most people think the pitch is where the magic happens, but truth is, if you don't handle discovery properly, best pitch in the world is not going to save you. At least half of all the training that I do in my team is on discovery. The rest is pitch, objection handling, everything else that goes on off the call. So start with the motivation. Just figure out why they're really here. Begin super simple. Just be like, hey man, sure you've seen a couple videos or however they came in. I know we chatted back and forth via email, but I am curious, like what motivated you to actually book in this 30-minute call and see what we're all about. A lot of times if you ask this question, you're going to get half the information that you need to close this person. What do they really care about? Whereas if you just start getting into like, hey, tell me what you do and what your business is all about, the call can go off the rails pretty quickly. People love to talk about their business. So sometimes, especially just depending on the person, they could go on a 10, 15 minute rant if you start off with a question like that. And prospects can lose patience. Like if you ever really cared about one thing when you're on the other side of this, so you're buying something, but the sales rep is just talking about everything else, you're kind of in the back of your head like, oh, dude, I just have like these few critical questions. Like just shut up and let me ask about that. Now, when you ask this question first, that kind of avoids that feeling because they're telling you what they really care about, which is great because that's their main buying criteria. So after we understand why they're on the call in the first place, what they're looking to accomplish, we're going to move in the business background. And this is super important because we want the full picture. If you've already done some research, that's fine, but hearing it directly from them matters. Now, ask how they're positioning their offer, who their ideal client is, what their pricing structure looks like, what their lifetime value is of a client, what their monthly recurring revenue is, whatever's like important for you to actually understand where this person's at. Are they qualified? What information do I need to actually be able to tailor my pitch and, obviously gain leverage to be able to close them? So it really does three things. Just helps you qualify and understand their business. Make sure that they understand that you understand, because that's super important, and gather information that you can use to tailor your pitch and close, like I mentioned. The reason why this part, number two, is important, making sure that they understand that you understand, is because nobody likes unsolicited advice. Not from a friend, and definitely not from a sales rep, right? If you ever want to talk to your friend about a problem, they're like, oh yeah, I get it, and blah, 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 you're dealing with this shit. I know how to fix it. You're just like, dude, you don't even know what's going on. How can you possibly know how to fix it, right? And that's important. So it's not just enough that you know, they also have to know that you know, right? And the rest of the information that you gather to tailor the pitch, like their client lifetime value is 3K, we can plug that into an ROI calculator. All that stuff is crucial as well. However, we don't want to spend too much time here. This shouldn't really take more than 5 minutes. I see a lot of reps struggle with this part and spend 10, 15 minutes just talking about the background of their business. If it does take too much time, right? Just review your calls and ask yourself, is this helping you qualify the prospect? Is this getting you information that you can use to better pitch and close? And if not, just cut it. Get to the more important stuff. The next thing is just going to be quantifying or understanding what their current efforts are. So you're going to dig into their current efforts, ask what they're doing to fix the issue that you solve, what's working, what isn't, what they've tried before, what they're considering now. If they tell you that they're not doing anything, they should also realize that's an issue. And all you really need to do this here is just have like a confused, perplexed tonality. Like, you guys aren't doing any outreach right now. Just by asking a question like that to double confirm, they're gonna be like, oh shit, yeah, this probably is an issue. Now, if they've been burned by somebody else in the past, you definitely want to dive deeper into that specifically, because you need to understand what went wrong so you can let them know exactly how this would be different, right? Somebody's like, oh, I've been burned in the past. Like, that sucks, man. Sorry to hear that, but want to make sure you're not going down the wrong road twice. Can you tell me more about what you mean by burned exactly? We worked this agency. Okay, what happened? Like, get real specific on this stuff. And sometimes it's not even the other service provider's fault that they got quote unquote burned. So try to remain impartial here. It could have just been the wrong time for the business. And obviously you want to just check in to see if this would be a better time for something like this, if you're doing virtually the same service. So after we understand what their current efforts are, now we want to get into the part where we quantify their current efforts. And all that means is we're just figuring out what their current efforts are resulting in. So get specific numbers on calls, closes, whatever metric is relevant to what you're selling, and always be wary of ranges. Just don't accept vague answers, because a lot of times you'll find out that the guy who's getting 10 to 15 calls a month, if you're selling lead generation, for example, and you ask them how many calls they got specifically in the past 30 days, they actually got 8 calls. They're like, oh yeah, but this was, November was a slow month, whatever. It's very important that you get the real results, because like I said, oftentimes they're lower than they'd like to admit, but getting them to verbalize that is what they need. Like, pretending the situation is better than it is does not serve them at all. And it also makes it a bit easier for us to sell, because if they're down here as opposed to up here, great. Then if we can get them to up here, that's already ROI positive. Now, after we understand what the current efforts are, we quantify those, we want to clarify what their goals is. So we understand what point A is. Now we want to define point B. So take everything that they have, that they've told you so far, because sometimes it can be super vague with their goals too, and just make sure that they have a clear direction. So ask where they want to be in the next 3, 6 months, really whatever your time to value or contract length is, whatever's longer. And if they're vague, guide them. Like, more clients, more views isn't a goal. A real goal is something that's measurable, that tells you what success actually looks like. So if they give me some BS answer like, oh yeah, I just want to grow or want to make more money, I'm going to say something like, got it. I mean, more clients is definitely our goal too, but just so we can define success here, so I know what to shoot for, what would make you look back in 6 months and make you say, yeah, this was absolutely worth it. Now they can give you something tangible. The reason why locking in a specific number or target is important, because we already have point A, now we have point B. Now the game is as simple as making our offer seem like the straightest line from point A to point B. Now, after we understand all of that, I want to dive back into the pain a little bit. I want them to really understand what not fixing this problem has been costing them. So I want to ask how long they've been struggling with this, whether it's lead generation, not being able to close deals outside of inbound or referrals, not having a social media presence. And after that, we want to even dig deeper if they just seem content or indifferent. Hey, so if things have been generally working as is, why has you looking into the service now, right? Like, let them come into the frame. You're not being pushy. You're just trying to figure out if this is actually a priority for them or not. If it's not, and we don't need to help them, cool, just let them off the phone. That's perfectly fine. But little rule in sales, they wouldn't have booked a call if it wasn't a priority, if it wasn't a problem. But sometimes they just need a little bit of extra assistance, we'll call it, to get there. Now, after we understand and they kind of understand like what this is actually costing them, now we want to kind of get into like, okay, are they actually ready for something like this? Like, do they actually feel the impact of the opportunity cost here? And usually I just like to ask them how likely they are to hit their goals without addressing the issues that they've talked about. And if they act like they'll hit the goal anyways, ask what the plan is and ask why they haven't done it already, right? If they are aware that they're not likely to hit their goals though, without doing something to address this, I'll say something like, okay, cool. It sounds like this is a priority then. So whether you're working with us or not on lead generation, it sounds like you guys are wanting and ready to address this now. Like you guys, whether you're working with us or not, you're looking to ramp up your lead gen. Cool. Because if I can get them into that mindset, and I love just throwing out that, hey, whether you're working with us or not, because I know that if they are ready to act now, great. We've already beaten our number one competitor, which is not the next agency or the other coaching program or the other guy down the street. It's just inaction, right? That's the number one competitor that we all face in sales. It's just them sitting on their thumb, doing nothing at all, staying in their current situation, which is also the worst thing for that business. And this is why this is all about helping people, right? But as long as we got that and we understand, okay, why they're here, what they're doing, what that's resulting in, what their goals are, and dig into that opportunity cost and get them into a position where there's some urgency and they're ready to act to address this now because that's what they need in order to have a chance to hit their goals, we're going to be able to transition the pitch. But before I do, I'm just going to recap their situation and like a clean, simple summary. Once again, this goes a long way to making them feel like you understand their business before pitching them, obviously. Confirm that they've got it right. Ask if there's anything important that I haven't asked about that I should. And when they say no, great. That's permission to pitch. That's your green light there. Now we're rolling on to pitch. This is the fun part, but the pitch is honestly the easy part when the discovery is done right. So long as you have a good structured, repeatable pitch that we can tailor whenever needed. This section usually takes about 10 minutes. And the goal here is pretty simple. Show them exactly how you can help, create clarity, and guide them toward making a decision here. Start with an expert perspective. I love to do this. It's somewhat of a pre-pitch if you guys are familiar with that, but you're essentially saying, before I get into the offer, asking the permission to share their thoughts. So right after the recap, I'm like, okay, cool, dude. You mind if I share some thoughts? Yeah. And just to explain where these thoughts are coming from. And then I'm kind of going into the spiel that basically prefaces the fact that we've helped tons of businesses or study patterns across our industry. Like, you know what you're talking about here. And then I'm gonna walk them through why most businesses struggle to address the issue that they're looking to address. This is where you're gonna call out common pitfalls, limiting beliefs, common mistakes. You're essentially just establishing that you understand the problem at an implementation level. Like, you are an expert and you understand how to fix this. They're not alone, right? You're kind of prefacing that, hey, here's why most businesses struggle with this thing, and that you're the guy to help, obviously. And then you can just finish this part by asking if they're aligned with how you're seeing things. If they are thinking about the problem the same way that you do, then naturally your solution to the problem is going to make a lot of sense. When they're in your frame like this, when they think about things the same way that you do, the pitch should never feel like it's missing the mark. It should be relatively straightforward after that. So obviously, after we have them aligned with how we think about the problem, now we want to introduce our solution to it. And once we give them a quick overview, we're diving deeper into the proven delivery system. And this is typically when you're using a visual to show them how you get your clients' results exactly. And when you screen share your visual, whether that's a diagram in your VSL, a slide deck, or even examples of your work, the point is to make the system easy to understand and get them engaged. Like, get them to really like, this is why I like visuals, because I feel like, number one, everybody's a visual learner, and if they see something in front of them, they're just more likely to kind of lean forward, ask questions about that. Or at least that's what I found. A good visual is going to do two things for you. It's going to explain what you do for clients and why it works. And then it's also going to break down how much work you're taking off their plate that they know that they should be doing for their business. You're basically just presenting all of the logistical intensity that goes into getting the results that they want, and you're removing all of that for them. Right, that's one of the best parts about selling a done-for-you service. And this is, like I said, usually where you're going to see a three-pillar pitch. I feel like the reason why everybody uses a three-pillar, or like a 3 keys to success or whatever it's going to be, is just 3 is an easy number to remember, but 3, 4, 5 doesn't really matter. But it's going to be as simple as like, here's your unique mechanism. First pillar, deliverables, benefit. So what are you doing for the client? Why does it matter? Second pillar, deliverables, benefit. Third pillar, deliverables, benefit. And you should pause between each one, check in. Obviously, if you only have 3 pillars and you have a ton of stuff going on, like, you should make each one meaningful. But don't only ask questions like, do you have any questions? I actually challenge our reps to never say that during the call, because saying, do you have more questions, is essentially giving them permission to take the wheel and drive the sales call from there. We want to be driving things, so we don't want that. Instead, you should just be asking questions about, do they understand how this works? Because confused prospects don't buy. And do they see how this would lead them closer to their desired situation? And these are just called trial closes, right? So I go over this part of the process and I say, okay, we have like targeted list building for them for whatever service I'm doing. Hey, do you see how just like narrowing in on your ICP and getting a list of tens of thousands of these people that you can work with would get you guys in a situation where if we can attack that list, you guys are good to go? Cool. Do you have any questions about how we do the list building process specifically? No. Okay, cool. Like I'm just making sure that they're seeing like the little steps that lead to the ultimate success that they want. Reason why trial closes are important because you want to build momentum throughout the pitch. By the time you ask for the sale, you shouldn't be totally in the dark, not knowing if they're at all interested or not. So next thing after I present my 3 pillars, which is just like boom, 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 the proven delivery system, I'm going to get into the roadmap and the quick wins that come along with it because prospects don't buy massive transformations. They buy clear paths forward. So these massive transformations tend to work pretty well in marketing, but not so well in sales. What I mean by that is if I'm selling a fitness offer and I'm teaching people how to go from 300 pounds to 200 pounds, like that's a pretty massive transformation. I can't just be like, hey, yeah, so we're going to get you in this workout plan, this diet plan, you're going to boom, lose 100 pounds. It's not going to be believable. Right? They're gonna be like, dude, this is something I've been struggling with my whole life. How can that be that simple? No. So you want to basically show them like, hey, day 1, we're gonna do a scan of your body fat percentage. And day 2, we're gonna start tracking your calories. And day 3, we're gonna lay out this whole fitness plan. And then day 4, we're gonna roll out a whole diet plan. Like that thing, just like the logical breakdown and the quick wins along the way, to get them to their desired situation, it's going to build trust and it's going to make them actually believe that this could work for them. So walk them through each stage clearly, the onboarding process, setup and launch, the initial ROI or like the initial wins, and then what ultimately leads them to getting to their desired situation that they want. Because this is going to start to help them visualize what success looks like for them specifically, which is important because they need to be convinced that this can not only work for someone or other people's, but this will work for them specifically. And if you made your service seem as simple as an overnight solution to fix a problem they've been dealing with for months, years, they probably wouldn't believe you anyways, right? So you do that pretty simply with like a timeline, roadmap, whatever you want to use, but it should just show what, week 1, week 2, month 1, month 2, whatever the time to value looks like for your process. After all of that, you just want to confirm that they understand the process. Okay, so before moving into the closing phase, check, see if they have any questions about the process and if they're confident in it. And this is typically where I want to allow space for dumb questions because once again, confused prospects do not buy. What I mean by dumb questions is let's say I sell cold email services and somebody's like, hey, why do we need to buy different domains to run cold email? That may seem like a dumb question for me because I've been doing it for so long, but little questions like that are super important for them to just get outside of the back of their head because if you don't allow any space for that, that may just sit in the back of their head and it may manifest at the end of the call as okay, I need to think about an objection because they genuinely do have a lot of questions. So let them get that out of the way here. Make sure that they fully understand what your process looks like because once they're clear on how you solve the problem, what work goes into it on your end and theirs, basically what the scope of work is, and they don't have any questions about the ins and outs and how this actually all breaks down, now we can get into the closing. One more pause into action. You need to grab my full guide on how to close 40% of your cold traffic leads. If you're leaving money on the table because cold leads aren't converting, this guide fixes that. It will walk you through the exact frameworks that we use to run a bulletproof discovery, deliver a convincing pitch, and then simply close with ROI-based logic, not using high pressure emotional tactics. And this is the same roadmap that we use across all of our businesses. So we don't have to solely rely on closing warm traffic and referrals, and it's completely for free. Just hit the link below and check it out. Now we're into the closing phase. And this is the final stretch of the call. This is the fun part of the call right here. You've done the discovery, you've pitched the system, they understand the process, and now it's time to tie it all together. And it's pretty simple from here now. If they actually believe this will get them from point A to point B, they should close. If not, figure out why, handle the objection. But how we can easily get into that every single call is just by one, showcasing the ROI, right? So make the investment make sense. And this is where you pull up your ROI calculator, kind of quantifiable client results, whatever you can use to walk them through what type of results they should be seeing. I just think the ROI calculator is a really easy one. Then you're gonna walk them through the calculator using their numbers. Don't overpromise here. Like this is a good opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. One, by setting good expectations for you on the fulfillment side or whoever actually does the fulfillment for your company. But 2, build trust and show them that even if it's not best case scenario, even if it's not case study type results, there can still be clear ROI there. Then just ask them if these results here, whatever you're projecting, align with what they'd be looking for. Now, if it does, if they've seen the numbers, we're just going to ask them the question that really matters. And when you're selling B2B, people are only going to buy because they think this will make them more money. So that's what the question is going to be centered on. Whether that's via more leads, time savings, massive downside protection, whatever it may be. If they truly believe this will make them more money in some way, shape, or form, they'll do it. If not, we'll call it out. We'll handle it. If we can't get them over that bridge, we're going to lose a deal. But we're going to ask for the sale and die trying. So simple question you ask is, hey, based on everything you're seeing here, do you see any reason you want to be able to get to the desired result or the projected result that we're seeing here? Usually I like to use whatever's more conservative. So let's say I'm looking at 10 leads per month on this package. So looking, hey, based on everything you're seeing here, do you see any reason you want to be able to also get the average of 10 leads per month? Cool. And then we can talk about how that can obviously lead to their desired situation. But if their goals are a bit lofty, so long as they see a clear positive ROI and they can see how this could eventually lead to that desired situation, you're golden. Now, if they genuinely don't see a reason why this wouldn't succeed and they're like, yeah, no, that all makes sense, Dan. I think that sounds good. It's very natural to just transition into the investment and closing. And sometimes I'll watch call reviews and like people want to talk about anything else because they're a little bit nervous to close, but don't be. Just don't overcomplicate it. There's literally nothing else to discuss. So at this point, if they're all good, they think that makes sense, they don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to get to their goals with the system that you just presented and the ROI makes sense. Now it's just about presenting the investment. So present them the package that's going to best align with their goals. If you have 3 or 4 options, don't show them all 3 or 4. Just pitch them the one that's going to align with their goals best. Obviously, if you need to downsell or upsell or whatever afterwards, you still have that space, but don't give them analysis paralysis. Just show them one thing. You can screen share a pricing sheet if you have one, especially if your structure has multiple layers or deliverables or it's complicated, but just let them know what goes in offer and present the investment clearly and then pause. All right. So, hey, for this gold package you're looking for, it'd be $10,000. Now, a little bit of silence is fine and you should be comfortable in it. But if it's feeling like it's a lot, it's getting pretty uncomfortable on the call, don't be too comfortable in the silence. Like don't sit there long enough to the point where they don't know what to say and they're like, okay, great, can you just send me an email? And they just ask off the call. Because that'll happen too if you wait too long. I don't like the closers who like to say the price and then just go on everything else and not let the person think about it or sit on it or remark on the pricing itself. But I also don't like the people who just shut up and they're just like, I'm not going to talk until this person says anything. I think it's a pretty dumb way. It just kind of, once again, establishes a frame of like a weird high pressure call. So if there is too much silence, just calmly ask like, sweet, this align with what you're looking to invest to get to 10 clients per month or whatever the goal is. Right. But just a calm, confident tonality is all you need here. Less is more, meaning like don't over talk. We want to be the simpler, slower party at this point in the call. We don't want them to speed us up because they're probably going to be frigidity and, a little bit hectic just because we ask them for money. We don't want to be that way. Right. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't start talking about random shit just because they want to move in a different direction. Now, if they're like, okay, cool, makes sense. Yeah, sounds good. Whatever it is, we're just going to outline the next steps and then ask for the sale. So the reason why we lay out the next steps in the first place is just to remove the fear of the unknown, right? Some people may want to say yes because this sounds like a good deal and it all makes sense. But if they don't understand what the next step is going to look like, they may be like, I don't know what this looks like. So let me just think about it a little bit more. So just explain what happens after they process the investment. So the path forward feels very straightforward, which usually is going to be processing the payment with you on the call, sign the agreement, which would get them the onboarding link and the onboarding form. Then they'll book their first onboarding call and you can talk about whatever triggers on the back end and the upfront work that you're doing that seems valuable to them right in the onboarding process. All makes sense? Yeah, it does. Okay. So once everything is clear, then you ask for the sale. And there is no magic closing line. It's just as simple as awesome, ready to get started. And your tone should be as calm and confident as mine just was because you want to give off the vibe that you're expecting a yes. Because if everything makes sense, like they've been telling you, obviously, if there's a chance to handle uncertainty, or if it doesn't seem like they're actually going to see an ROI, or if they don't resonate with your pitch or whatever, something's going wrong up here, you can obviously call that out and get to objection handling earlier. But if everything is moving according to plan and everything makes sense, then you should just give off the energy that like, yeah, you should get started now because that's just what prospects do. But between you and me, you can't be thrown off when they say no, because this is where we make our money in the sales, right? Right after that first no, that's a lot of time when the actual work on the call starts. And this is usually the moment when objections show up. So just handle them and close. Don't just let them off. Now, that's it for this video. This is all great, but even with a perfectly structured sales call, most prospects won't say yes on the first ask. That's perfectly fine. Just stay in the conversation by objection handling and keep asking because more asks equals more sales, especially when a prospect hits you with the, I need to think about it. If you freeze here, get weird, don't know how to handle it. This is where the deal is going to die. So if you've ever experienced or struggled in that moment where somebody hits you without I need to think about it and you just don't know what to do, you need to watch my next video. It shows you exactly how to respond when a prospect says they need to think about it and how to keep the conversation alive so you can keep closing a high percentage of your calls. Links on the screen now. Let's keep crushing it. Peace.